On Wednesday the 22nd of October, it was announced that construction of HS2 is to face yet more delays, with work between Curdworth and Handsacre to be paused for a further 4 years, meaning that construction on this section will have been delayed for over 6 years if or when work recommences on HS2 north of Delta Junction. The pause is part of a larger reset of the HS2 project, with HS2 Limited, the company responsible for building the line, focusing efforts on the core section between Old Oak Common and Birmingham Curzon Street. It has been reported it could allow time for the DFT to reassess the connection to the West Coast mainline at Handsacre, but I haven't seen any official statement to that effect. It's more likely that the prolonged pause is due to ongoing pressure from the Treasury to keep the yearly spend on HS2 down. What this means is the North will have to wait even longer to feel any of the benefits of HS2. Completion of the core section will release a small amount of capacity on the southern section of the West Coast mainline, but this will mostly benefit passengers between Rugby and London. Since the initial pause that was announced by the previous government in March 2023, work has taken place near to Lichfield, with the completion of a bridge which carries the West Coast mainline over HS2. And construction is continuing on the bridge which will take the A38 over the new line. But beyond that, no work has taken place between Delta and Handsacre since 2023. This means that a number of large and complicated structures are yet to be delivered, such as the grade-separated junction connecting HS2 to the West Coast mainline at Handsacre, and a number of key road bridges, with questions remaining about if at least part of Leeds Dive Under or Phase 2A spur will be constructed. If construction is delayed until 2030, then it could be into the mid-2030s before the civils are complete on this 28km section. Track laying, testing and commissioning could take a further 2 to 4 years, meaning it's possible that the North won't benefit from HS2 until the end of 2030. If reports suggesting the government is rethinking the junction at Handsacre, then this delay could be prolonged, as it's likely that a significant change at this stage would require a development consent order to deliver. 4 years may sound like a long time, but I don't think it will be long enough to design, develop and gain the necessary powers to deliver an alternative to Handsacre. If the government really were serious about developing an alternative, it would be quicker and make more sense just to build Phase 2A to Crewe, which has already been developed and the required permissions to build the line are in place. But the Treasury probably won't allow this. To further complicate matters, the hybrid bill for 2A is set to lapse next year, so the government would have to apply to extend the powers for a further 5 years if they wanted to keep the option open. However, I'm feeling less confident now than ever before that the decision to cancel HS2 Phase 2A will ever be reconsidered. If HS2 services to the north are to be delayed, then it could be argued that it may be better to build Phase 2A instead of Handsacre, with passive provision in place so that a connection to the West Coast mainline could be built in future, removing the need to build 2 grade-separated junctions and approximately 3 kilometres of track could save in the region of £500 million or possibly more, which would be best put towards extending HS2 further north. While Phase 2A would cost between £5 and £7 billion, it is one of, if not the, most cost-effective sections on the whole HS2 route, which would deliver significant capacity benefits and additional journey time savings. People now seem to be suggesting we should just upgrade the West Coast mainline in key locations instead, as it is claimed it would be cheaper and could be delivered more quickly than HS2 Phase 2A. However, this assertion really isn't based on any evidence, but it's a nice easy line for long-standing opponents of HS2 to repeat, as it sounds plausible. It just seems absurd to me to suggest some sort of alternative line which bypasses College and Stafford would be better than HS2. Any new sections of line would largely have to mirror Phase 2A, but by calling it upgrades, opponents can make it seem like they have a better and more cost-effective proposal. A proposal for which no plan exists. So any plans would have to go through the option selection and design process, and through Parliament, and then finally construction. So would likely take a decade to realise, if not more. Anyone who says we should just grade separate College Junction mustn't have looked at a map. This key junction, which is a major constraint on the West Coast Main Line, also happens to be located within the village from which the junction gets its name. So the only option would be to build a new 4-kilometre link bypassing College completely to the south, which would require the construction of a grade separated junction from the West Coast Main Line, a viaduct over the River Trent, and would pass perilously close to a country manor. A more northerly bypass would effectively follow the Phase 2A route, so the question then becomes, why not just build 2A? Whatever happens, it's apparent that any alternative to Handsacre would take time to develop, so this latest pause just seems to provide more questions. But one thing is for certain, Birmingham will get a significant head start on the north when it comes to benefiting from HS2. And with the government dithering about Northern Powerhouse Rail, I feel that northern leaders should be demanding answers from the government about what, if anything, they plan to do to boost the economy of the north. The only slight positive outcome from this is that Euston should be completed by the time services from the north begin to move to HS2. It could be argued that there's little point replacing existing Avanti services from the north with HS2 services until HS2 reaches Euston, which I'm beginning to reluctantly agree with. But with the tender for yet another redesign of Euston only just being announced, then it's likely that Euston may not be complete until the end of 2030. So it now seems that the north may benefit from HS2 a mere 14 years after the original opening date for HS2 Phase 1 to Handsacre, which was slated to open by 2026. Don't get me wrong, I don't begrudge the fact that West Midlands will benefit from HS2, and I still support the project. But as a northerner, the ongoing saga is beginning to get a little bit frustrating. Just before I go, could I please ask that if you enjoyed this video or found it informative, that you please give it a like, as it helps my content to get noticed.